Hello there, welcome to Rob's Models. I'm Rob, and today is Friday the 26th of February 2021, and the reason I say that is because this afternoon I got this turn up, and this is Airfix's 1:35 Cromwell Mk.IV, or to give it its full name, the Cruiser Mk.VIII A27M Cromwell Mk.IV. Phew, so a bit of a mouthful. Reference code is A1373. And this just literally turned up this afternoon. Got it on pre-order since last year. Got an email yesterday afternoon from Hornby saying your delivery will be tomorrow. And then DPD knocked on the door and dropped this off today. So I'm pretty excited. For those that know me and follow my builds, I am mainly an aircraft builder. Have dabbled in some smaller scale armour as well as some other 1:35 scale kits, but really looking forward to getting into the 1:35 scale proper armour, the proper tank sort of things, and not just some of the more smaller vehicles that I've been working on. So yeah, this, well, what can we say about it? Well, it's actually, first of all, let's start with the box itself. Actually, being Airfix, it's quite nice. You can tell it's actually a bit more thicker than the normal Airfix boxes. Not so much sort of flex in there as you get. So at least the base bit isn't the same card as what they've got on the top. I do have some, Airfix kits, which, like the Merlin, is a box pretty much about the size actually of this A2 cutting mat, and that's just on that thin card. But this is thicker card all round. Nice bit of box art. We can see there's actually going to be two versions of this here. So the first version you got there is the 1st Royal Tank Regiment 7th Armoured Division, British Army Europe, and that's the 1944/1945. Then the other version is the Cromwell Mk.IV, which is the Northamptonshire Yeomanry 11th Armoured Division, British Army Europe, 1944 to 1945. So based in Europe at the same time, but obviously two slightly different variations of it. Essentially both have got the plain green, but one with a hedge cutter, or one where you can sort of add a little bit of the snowy effect. But I've got to say, nice bit of box art there. You can see the main gun firing away. There's a bit of a few ricochets coming off of it from rifle rounds, a bit of chain over the front. Not too much in the way of decals and things by the look of it. But of course, the great thing with armour is actually having fun at taking it, dirtying it up, shall we say. So let's have a look. Now, I did notice that there's no sellotape, no seals on there. So I will take it out, and I genuinely don't really know what to expect apart from plastic in here. So let's have a look. And we have got sprues. So we've got 2 sprues there. So that looks like the turret. We'll take them out of the bags in a second. Turret and some of the skirts. Now we've got the road wheels there. 2 sprues of that with some various cogs and bits. There we go. That's I guess the main chassis, the main hull of it there. So that's just 2 sprues in that bag. Actually, I've just suddenly noticed this is a different way that Airfix normally, they will just put it in one big bag and have a couple of staples at the top. But this is more crinkly plastic, not the normal polythene. What have we got here? Okay, we've got some tracks. So you can see 2 lots of tracks there, and immediately just see that they're in lines with lots of individual linkages. So no doubt we'll be building the tracks up as they go. Oh, and when I say building, I do actually plan on building this quite soon, because what I like to do is do an unboxing and a review like this, then actually build the thing and then have a look and a bit of a summary to see how we go. So we've got some little polycap types there, and the side skirts, and a bit more of the chassis we've got in that one. It's quite nice actually that they've done that there. And what have we got? Ooh, okay, there's something I wasn't expecting. Okay, well, first of all, rubber tracks, which just seem to clip together, which might be easiest. So we'll see what option I'll be going for. And let's go, it's decals, and also, okay, so not much on the way of decals, just some stars and a few little identification numbers. So that's not going to take long to decal, and a little bit of photo etch, which I was not expecting at all. So we've got a bit of a grill and just a few little bits just to add some little bit of a little, well done Airfix on that one. I was going to say, you've actually shocked me on that one, Airfix. I was not expecting to find a little bit of photo etch in here. And we have a instruction book. Okay, let's pop all these bits back in. I will reverse the order. I'll put them in there. We'll start with the instruction book and then work our way through. So, we've got quite a hefty book here. And actually what's odd is, well, it's the same picture on the box art, but it's actually black and white. So it's obviously just the Airfix saving a couple of quid there. And there we go, it's the Cromwell Mk.IV 1:35 scale, A1373. And I've got to say, it is a nice bit. Actually, I've got to say, in black and white, that does actually look quite a nice picture as well. So let's go through, starting off. Okay, well actually on the front, just to say, we do actually have a bit of the history. One of a series of fast and relatively well-armed cruiser tanks developed by the British during the Second World War. Oh, one thing I will say, there's another version of the Cromwell as well, which was the version with the smaller barrel as well, which Airfix have brought out at the same time. So obviously the main sort of chassis is going to be the same, it's just going to be details on the turrets. Okay, so first part's going to be basically building up the base of it, the side walls that come on, and then supports and the front and back. Then we've got the little suspension brackets, the side skirts coming on. As that all comes together, going to be putting on a few parts, just generally just building up as you would do. No major surprises here. Tow hooks, exhausts. Got the wheel set to do. Not a massively complicated set of wheels actually on this, which is quite nice. And actually, I've got to say, just looking at how to do these tracks, following those around, that looks a lot easier than it was trying to do the ones for that Tiger tank as well. And you can see that we've got the option there. You can either build it up each individual section using the solid parts, or you've got the flexible track option there, which I think would be a lot easier, but obviously there's going to be a lot more detail in there. So now use instant glue for photo etch parts. Okay, so just putting on a few little bits, and actually what's nice is you've actually got here I can't work out, I think it's a photo. They have actually got a photo. I wasn't too sure if it was some of the CAD, but no, it is actually a photo just showing you how that's going to be going. And you just got to drill some holes on the inside just for some of the fitting points. But that is quite nice for, just to include, I think just for those handles, just to show you how that's going to go. Building these parts up, it does all look relatively simple actually at the moment. I mean, they are quite a sort of a simple tank anyway. So building up the top of the chassis, then we've got the grille mud guards, a bit more photo etch, and again they've actually put the photo etch, bizarrely, obviously it looks like the photo etch seems to have been an added extra almost, because it's not been included in here. They've taken photographs and almost dropped the photographs in afterwards, which is quite interesting actually. I mean, in fact, you can see that they've actually shrunk. If you're going to be pedantic about it, you can actually see this image there. It looks like it's actually been cropped down a little bit, so they could shrink it to put that on. So the actual instructions are really based on the plastic parts. Photo etch seems to be nice, but added in, but nice to actually have a grille like that coming in. Then those handles, which were in the photo earlier, adding on some of the extra little lumps and bumps to it there. A few little options, as into, that's nice, you can have some of the actual doors open or closed, some of those little hatches coming onto the barrel. Obviously it's telling you not to glue, so you can have a little bit of movability there. Actually, you've got an end cap over the barrel as well, just so that's going to cover up any joins. As the turret comes together, you're going to have to be doing a few options to drill out a few holes, and then just basically putting some of those lumps and bumps onto it. Got the hatch option to have the hatch opened or closed, although you probably want to have it closed unless you're wanting to scratch build some sort of interior in there, because by the look of it, there doesn't seem to be any sort of detail on the inside, which is obvious. And then another hatch open or closed, spotlight there, and then once the turret's made, the turret drops in, and then the part here is the little, basically the hedge cutter bits, where they realised essentially what it was. They realised that going up and down and over things exposed the quite weak underside of the tank. However, they put that sort of hedge cutter sort of plough on the front of it. The tank just ploughed through the hedges, through the hedgerows. Then it could actually keep flat without having to lift itself up. And actually, again, a bit different for Airfix is actually a parts location diagram, where they've actually got some pictures of the sprues just to check. So you've got A, B, D. Doesn't seem to be a sprue C in this one, so I'm guessing sprue C would be the parts for if you're doing the other Cromwell Mk.IV, the other one that Airfix have just bought out. So essentially the main chassis is going to be the same. You can see the main colour option that we've got here. As I say colour option, really the main part of it is actually going to be in Humbrol, the 159 matte khaki drab. So I'll be using MRP349, which is a lacquer paint, and that is, yeah, the SCC number 15 olive drab, which is exactly what it says there, the Approx SCC 15 olive drab. And this one of course shows some of the white sort of sprayed on the turret for the winter camouflage, or if you're doing it with a hedge cutter, I'm guessing you wouldn't have needed hedge cutters in the middle of winter because it could just go straight through the hedge then. You've just got the more plain version there. And again, although there's a few colour call-outs there, that's literally just for things like the fire extinguisher on there. Pretty much 99% of it is actually going to be that 159 in Humbrol, the matte khaki drab. So that is actually quite a nice instruction book. And of course it doesn't actually look too complicated. Basically build the chassis, put the tracks on, put the lumps and bumps of it on, keep a few options. It's nice to actually see that there's some options for some open bits, whether you're going to want to do that because there's not going to be a detailed interior, but I guess if you wanted to scratch build something, or at least just have it in diorama, if you're going to be putting a person in there, then of course that will be fine. That will cover up the hole in there. Let's actually get onto the sprues. I know that's what we're really looking for. So we'll come to this first one. As I say, normally they're all just in one big bag, rattling around. But what I've actually done here to make a change is put them in this sort of bag. So first ones, what have we got? So these are just some of the effectively sort of mud card bits, some of the lumps and bumps. I'm sort of probably doing this not in order, but I'm just doing them as we get to them. Being a tank, it generally is going to be quite plain looking. However, I can see we have got riveting detail on there. Now this is a brand new one. So actually the Tiger tank, when I did that, again, same thing, had that on pre-order, and even some of those parts had a little bit of a release agent, and a release agent on a large run Airfix kit is a bit unheard of. But okay, on this side, this is the sort of the detail side. I'm just looking, you have got some quite nice sort of fine detail. You have got rivets. There's some of the grill, some of this bit of mesh, and that is actually quite nicely. I was going to try to rub my finger over so you can hear it, but that mesh is actually so fine, but that is going to take a wash very nicely actually. That's going to stand out. There's some of the rivets just going around. I think that's the end of the barrel. So you've got rivets sort of in there, and they actually almost look like they've already been, you know, glued on, like them. Those are separate, but they're not. They are actually moulded in. And does feel like there's this part here though has actually kind of got you can feel the ridges of the parts of the sort of the plates underneath. Not too actually the way it's been. I mean, that might actually be prototypical anyway. I'm not sure on that one. If it would be absolutely smooth, I'm just thinking with the welding and things of those plates going underneath, it probably would cause some deformation. It does feel, in places, does feel a bit thick. However, those are parts where they're sort of like more blocky parts anyway. So that sprue, it's not like you've got massive or real fine crisp detail, but that's because on these parts there's not exactly crisp detail. You've got a few ejection marks, quite a few large ejection marks, but I don't think that's going to be any problems those should be there, and of course no flash on a kit this new. So let's have a look at this one. And again, moulded rivets. When you've got the hatches, where you've got the hinges on there, you've got the little rivets in there. And actually, something like these parts here around these hatches, that is some very nice. I wouldn't say it's real fine detail, but it's just very crisp and very there. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of not subtle, but it's detailed and it's crisp, and it's the sort of stuff where once you build it up and you put a wash on there, it's going to really accentuate that sort of detail. So that does look nice, and again, you know, no flash or anything on there, not that we're expecting. And some of these little boxes that are going to be on the side got straps and buckles already moulded in as well. And that does look, it just, yeah, does actually feel quite good quality. And actually the plastic of it does feel a little bit different than sometimes your normal Airfix. Sometimes feels a little bit softer plastic. Let's try the next bag. This is 2 of these. I'll just take one. And so we've got 2 of these. There's going to be 1 for each side, and this is the wheel set. And actually, you know, you're only looking at on each side 5 wheels and a drive sprocket. Again, you've got a lot more rivet sort of detail in there. The little hubcap bits. Again, some very fine sort of bolt heads on there as well. So that should, I mean, for essentially what's going to be quite plain lumps of metal bolted together, that should be quite nice. Next sprue, well, this bag has actually got 2 sprues in. So A and B. So A, this is basically the main chassis part, and again, yeah, nicely good sort of riveting detail on there. A few little catches and clasps, bolts, quite sort of thick sort of panel lines, but this is, you know, this isn't an aircraft in 72nd or 48 scale, you know, this is a tank in 35th scale. So, you know, this is made out of, you know, 4-inch thick lumps of, you know, iron and steel, which, yeah, that it has got that sort of you can see, yeah, they kind of thickened it just to, you know, to give it that sort of real look. And again, oh, that is some very nice. This part here, lots of hatches, lots of hinges on there, lots of riveting detail, bolt heads going around it. That does actually look nice, and again, it's quite plain and simple, but done well. The hinges on these hatches as well, you can see where the hinges are. They've kind of got the bits where they sort of go, you know, where they'll hinge round. You can actually, you know, it's not just, yeah, the ends of the hinges you can see. So that is going to be quite nice. We'll come to that in a minute, so let's jump ahead to this one. And I guess here we're going to get a bit more of a feel for the size of it a little bit as well. So there's going to be your bottom, and even on the base of it actually, you've still got some good sort of details going on there, and rivets all around it. And on the side skirts, on the side, yeah, you've still got good sort of reset detail in there. Good details on those parts there. Again, plenty of rivets. It does all look very, I was going to say, it does look very uniform, very crisp, very clean. And I guess it looks, I guess if anything, I could say it's almost too perfect, if that makes sense. However, I'm sure once it starts getting built, and what people like to do when they are making their tanks is to get the weathering on there, you know, really start messing it up. But you're going to have a good, solid, a nice, crisp detail on there. So then you can go to town with your weathering, and some of those moulded details are quite, you know, are quite nice actually. And finally, we've got these little poly caps. So that's not, that's a different type. It's not rubber, but that's definitely a more softer, malleable. So that's going to be when putting the wheels on, little caps for that. And let's see what we've got there. So we've got some rubber ones, and I've got to say those, even though they are rubber, they have got some nice detail actually in between the treads. So it's not just sort of like rubber bands with some stripes on. They do actually have some good sort of detail in there. And I did find that with the Tiger one, again, only 72nd, I completely appreciate. There was two types of ways you could put the tracks on. There was the pre-built one, or the which was, you know, nice and easy, or the version where you basically had to build up just like this but in a smaller scale, which was quite complicated. But there really was a difference between the quality, which I found a little bit odd, because once you got a mould for it, I don't know why, but I've got to say, comparing like for like, the actual difference between the mould, that's the, as far as I can tell, you will not be sacrificing detail using those, which does make me start wondering quite what. I mean, obviously that's going to have a bit more bend to it, maybe it might. No, I'm thinking, generally I'm looking at that and I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that is essentially, I mean, obviously that's going to take the paint better. This is this sort of rubber, actually, yeah, good in theory, but to be honest, if you try to paint it, the paint's going to flake off, and you're going to want to paint it, you're going to want to do weathering. So if you are looking to do it properly, you're going to be needing to use these, but it should be fine. I mean, I have noticed these are absolutely perfectly straight. There's no sort of rounded parts. In fact, I will just check, because I thought I saw in here when building the track up that there was going to be this part. So for example, we've got parts which are bending there, like H1 is bending. So okay, no, that's because H1 you're using 13 and you're actually literally building up that piece. So the bending parts, they're not, there's no sort of, any bits that are straight, they're done, but the bits that are hooking round, you are literally going to have to be building those parts up, individual tracks. So 13 tracks do that, 15 tracks do the end, a few other ones just for linking it as well. So you're not, at least you're not having to do the whole lot, but that is going to be quite a quiet night in. And finally, little bag here, Decals. Not too many of them, you just got basically your circles, and they are very flat. One of the things I found, I mean, you can see the backing film when you catch it in the light. I mean, there's not much there, but they're a lot flatter than the Tamiya ones I've been working with recently. That's what I'm going to say. So that is a nice set of decals on there, and like with the ones on the little Tiger one, put them on and they sat down quite nicely. Popped a little bit of that on an hour later and they just sank straight down, and they literally had that painted on effect really quickly and easily. And then finally, what have we got on the back there? We've actually got instructions on the back of the decals. Never seen that from Airfix. And so there we go, got that grill, and that is, I mean, it's just one little sprue with just 5 pieces on. The first part, the main part, being that grill, and then some other little parts, and again some nice little more finer detail. There doesn't actually look to be any moulded details or anything in those parts, but obviously those are just parts which are going to be thinner metal. So instead of actually just doing them in thin plastic, I've done it in photo-etch, and it just says Airfix, they've even got it in there. So that is looking good. So that's actually quite a nice surprise. I know it's only a little thing, but a little bit of photo-etch in there. Well done, Airfix, wasn't expecting that. So let's just recap as I put it back in the box. The tracks, definitely. It's going to be a bit tricky building up some of those single parts, but no doubt that that they should go together okay. But really going to need to be building those ones up if you are wanting to weather it, because of course they're going to need to get painted and weathered. However, when it just comes to purely based on moulding and detail, that is actually impressive. Those holding them next to each other. Generally, if you were to take a strip of that and a strip of that, hold it next to each other, purely on the moulded detail point of view, you're not going to see the difference in there. And going through it, let's just have a little recap. I mean, you can sort of see the size. Actually, did I say what the size is going to be? I mean, it's going to be coming in at about, I'm just going to say about, you know, the chassis is going to be about 20 centimeters long. So yeah, that's looking very nice. Again, good, nice, crisp detail. Some of it does look perhaps a little bit on the plain side. However, I'd say it almost looks, some of it looks a bit almost too perfect. Actually, what's the size of that part? Because that's going to be one of the top sort of section on there. Yeah, you're kind of going to be having a width of about 9 centimeters, length of about 20 by the time it's all in. Yeah, some of those, like those rivets, they do seem quite chunky, but by the time you stick on a whole load of weathering, those sort of things, have some fun with it, maybe do a bit of wear and tear, you're not going to want to make this one look perfect, as in new, coming straight out of the factory. Good sort of riveting details, those sort of things, nuts and bolts on the wheel hubs and on those sprockets, and some of these little lumps and bumps that are going to be going on the top and around the side of the turret as well. Very nicely, crisply moulded. Very, yeah, it's just very obvious is probably the best way to put it. Does look solid, well done. No flash or anything on there. Again, I've been looking, ejector pins, you can see on the back the ejector marks, but nothing on the front side. And in fact, looking at that, we've even got 2 barrels there. And the barrel, by the way, just checking, is actually just a single piece. So you shouldn't have too much in the way of join lines running down the barrel. And that is it. So that is the Airfix 1 to 35th scale, and that's full title is the Cruiser Mk.VIII A27M Cromwell Mk.IV. I think I'm going to be doing it not in the box art, but I am tempted, because then with the white for that snow sort of camouflage, I think that, you know, would, I'm not too sure, but then the other version you can put the hedge cutter on there, which I think will be quite interesting. You can see you've got some chains and those sort of things on the front, so actually pity they didn't put any sort of chain in there or anything for that, but again, easy to add those sort of parts, tow ropes, those sort of things. But I've got to say, it's quite a nice big box. The instruction book nicely printed as well. It doesn't seem like a really complicated kit, to be perfectly honest. It doesn't look like one where it's going to be loads and loads of really small fiddly parts. That I am looking forward to. What I'm going to be doing, going to be building this one soon. What I'll try to do is film the build of it, put the highlights of it on YouTube, and then once I'm actually done, come back again to do a final video of it, where I'm going to be showing the built model and going through a summary of what it's actually like to build. Because I always think it's one thing to go through a box like that and look at all these bits of plastic and talk about how crisply moulded it is together, but if things don't fit when you're trying to put it together, and it should do, it is of course the latest tooling and literally come out today. So it should be, but again, you never know. And I did have a few surprising little fit issues with the Tiger 1 that was also released just before Christmas in 2020. So I'm going to be building that. That is the unboxing and the review of Airfix's Cromwell Mk.IV 1 to 35th scale. I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully in the next few days I'm going to start building, and I'll be putting my progress on that on YouTube. So if you're interested, make sure you hit subscribe. If you've enjoyed this, do hit the like button, it is appreciated. And if you've got any questions and you're thinking of doing it yourself and you just want to say, oh, what was the, you know, could you ask a few little questions, yeah, feel free, ask in the comments, try and get back to you. And yeah, great. Well, I'm going to get on, have a cup of tea I think, and then going to be going through that and getting the paints out, and hopefully in the next couple of days going to start getting this together. I've been Rob, thanks for watching Rob's Models, see you soon, happy modelling.